You ever roll up to a place that's supposed to be yours, family land, memories in the walls, the air still carrying the echo of your brother's laughter, and find some stranger acting like they've been running the show for years? Yeah, that happened to me. Let me back up a sec. I came back to my dad's old hunting lodge, way out where the gravel crunches different, ready to do some fixing up. Make good on a promise to my grandkids for a summer of fish and fireflies. I turn the key in the door, and it just swings open. No resistance, no click, just wrong. Inside, it smelled like lemons and lavender, not dust and pine. The old fireplace was there, but everything else was off. Yoga mats where Dad's armchair used to be, potluck flyers stuck where fishing poles belonged. And in my kitchen, like it was the most normal thing in the world, there's this woman in high-dollar yoga gear, cleaning the counter like she owns the place. She didn't flinch, just looked at me like I was a mailman with muddy boots. "Can I help you?" she says, cool as you please. So I tell her, "Actually, who are you, and what are you doing in my house?" That's when the story gets nuts. She says, "I'm Karen Whitfield, property manager for the HOA. This is now the community lodge. You know what I mean? My family's home, a place we bled and laughed and grieved in, and she's got donation boxes nailed to my trees with her name stenciled on them. She'd replaced Dad's locks, tossed our tools, and decided, since the property looked abandoned, it was up for grabs. Now, I could have lost my temper, but all those years in the Army teach you to bottle it up till the time is right. I told her she was trespassing, and she fires back, says the new development HOA annexed my land as a greenbelt. She starts getting that righteous, clipped tone, and before I can blink, she's dialing the sheriff, telling him some aggressive stranger broke into the community center. When the deputy shows up, he looks like he'd rather be anywhere else, but he listens to both sides and shrugs, says it's a civil dispute. Gotta take it to court. And all the while, Karen's smiling behind him, like she just won the lottery. Next morning, I come back. There's a fat new padlock on my door, a violation notice, a fine for being on my own land. She's charging me rent. Now, apparently. So, I go down to the county office, ask for every record they've got on the property. The old clerk prints out my deed, my name, tax records, all clean, but she pauses, pulls out a new plat map, and there it is. The HOA had drawn a dotted line right around my land, filed it as common area, claimed it was unoccupied and up for annexation. Legal on paper, she says, but not right. I call a lawyer, retainer's brutal, timeline's worse. My daughter wants me to sell, move on, but how do you sell your brother's favorite place, your father's legacy, just because some lady with a clipboard wants to build a yoga retreat? I drive up that night and, with binoculars, watch Karen hosting a yoga class in my living room, acting like queen of the castle. That's when doubt dies and something harder settles in. I start knocking on doors in the new development, but nobody wants to talk. One old vet, fined for his flagpole, whispers, she's got eyes everywhere. This wasn't just my fight now. She'd bullied them all. Army training kicks in. Don't shout, dismantle. I dig into county records, not just for my deed, but for hers. I find old survey, maps, bylaws, and then, buried deep, Dad's original road easement from 1958. County guaranteed us access long before the HOA was born. Their private road? Legally, it's mine. I call my old friend, Tanner, now a land surveyor, and get him digging for more. Meanwhile, I start collecting evidence. Drone footage of Karen's theft, hauling off Dad's rocking chair, Lance's tackle box, plus a birdhouse. Camera aimed at her donation box. My buddy Gus, ex-military electrician, finds her illegal power hookup. She's stealing from her own HOA to light up her nature pavilion. With the paperwork, video, and power theft evidence in hand, I email it all, anonymously, to a local investigative reporter. Then Tanner hits pay dirt. The HOA annexation of my land is void. One board member, Lena Brooks, never signed off. My lawyer drafts a cease and desist. Karen doubles down, blasts an email to the whole HOA painting me as a dangerous outsider. I realize it's time to choose the battlefield. I call Tanner, call Earl the ex-sheriff for a witness, and finally, Lena Brooks herself, inviting her to see what Karen's been hiding. Day of reckoning. There's a wedding rehearsal at my stolen lodge, fairy lights and music, Karen presiding. At 5 sharp, we block the road. I cut the power, step into the silence with Lena at my side. Karen's face, shock, then panic, then rage. I walk to the father of the bride, hand him my deed, the lawyer's letter, satellite photos. You're all on my land, I say, and invite them up to finish their party at the real lodge. Then, I live stream the whole thing to the community Facebook group. Karen's kingdom collapses. She threatens restraining orders, flees in humiliation. At the next HOA board meeting, the neighborhood turns out in force. Lena calls an emergency session, suspends Karen as president, and I play the footage, her stealing, pocketing cash, rigging the vote. Then, the big reveal. Tanner found that the land under the whole subdivision never actually transferred from the original holding company. Guess who bought that company last week? Yours truly. No, I'm not in your HOA. I say, I'm your landlord. The room erupts. Karen is voted out. Her board crumbles. And for the first time, the homeowners cheer. Did she go quietly? Not a chance. She flung every petty accusation she could. Unsafe structure, claims, fake environmental complaints, restraining orders that never stuck. I sent a tidy dossier to her real estate firm. 2 days later, her profile vanished. Justice isn't just getting your house back. It's seeing the bully held accountable. The final weekend, my family's all there. Tanner, Earl, Lena, my grandkids running through the woods, laughter echoing in the trees. We paint a cedar sign. Together, Lance Lodge. Hang it right above the door. The new HOA apologizes, dumps half the old rules, and I help the vet raise a new flag on the community lawn. It feels like freedom, like healing. Last scene, my grandson's up on a stool, hammer in hand, helping me brace the old beam my dad, my brother, and I set decades ago. That's what it's about. Not just a building, something you pass on. Something that outlasts any Karen with a clipboard. Some folks build empires, some build fences, but me, I'd rather build a legacy. So what do you think? Was I right to fight, or should I have walked away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who gets to decide what's fair, paperwork or people, community or control? I'll be reading. You know, after the dust settled from that wild showdown, you'd think I could finally catch my breath. Just a few quiet mornings with coffee on the porch, watching mist rise off the trees, grandkids squabbling over who gets the biggest pancake. But life doesn't just let you slip back into peace. Not when you've just poked a hornet's nest like that, and especially not with the likes of Karen Whitfield still out there licking her wounds. See, it wasn't just about my lodge anymore. Word got out. Neighbors from the development would catch me at the hardware store or flag me down while I was gassing up the old Ford. First it was thanks and handshakes. Folks I'd never met telling me I'd done what they were too scared to do. But then came the real stories. One guy, nervous as a squirrel, pulled me aside in the parking lot, said Karen used to fine him every month for fence violations that never seemed to make sense, until he realized she was pocketing the money. Another lady admitted her kids hadn't been allowed to play in the common area for years. Too noisy, Karen claimed. Turns out, she just didn't like children on her greenbelt. And Lena, well, she took the brunt of it after stepping up as acting head of the board. She called me one night, her voice shaky but determined, said Karen's old inner circle was stonewalling every attempt to reform the HOA, threatening lawsuits, whispering about some outside influence corrupting the neighborhood. That outside influence would be me, I guess, I told her, half joking, but it wasn't really funny. Change never comes easy, especially not when the bullies feel their grip slipping. I did my best to back her up, not by storming meetings, but by keeping receipts. When Karen's allies filed bogus complaints about noise or accused Lena of conflict of interest because she'd sided with me, I was ready with every bit of paperwork, every timestamped video, every notarized statement. There were late nights at the kitchen table, the smell of coffee and sawdust mixing with the weight of old records spread out across the wood. My daughter on speakerphone telling me, "Dad, you're turning into a one-man FBI." Maybe I was, but sometimes that's what it takes. Then came the day someone torched the pergola, burned it down to the posts, nothing left but blackened beams and scorched earth. Karen, of course, blamed me publicly, Facebook posts, group emails, even a segment on the local news where she called me a dangerous provocateur. I sat there in my flannel shirt, watching her rant on TV, shaking my head. The insurance company launched an investigation. Turns out, the power cord she'd illegally run from the main road overloaded, sparked, and set the whole mess alight. The truth came out, but the rumor mill never sleeps. Some folks still look at me sideways in the grocery store. Others clap me on the back and say, "Glad you stood your ground, Rick." Lena and I kept at it. She organized community cookouts, invited the folks Karen had shunned, rebuilt trust bit by bit. We found the old veteran with the flag and gave him the honor of leading the next meeting's Pledge of Allegiance, his hands shaking, voice steady, tears running down his cheeks. Small moments, but that's what fixes a place. One stubborn, honest gesture at a time. Meanwhile, I started turning the lodge back into what it was always meant to be. Rehanging Dad's tools, sanding the beams until my hands ached, letting the grandkids paint the bunkroom walls with fish and trees. And a crooked sun. We'd wake up early, hike down to the creek, and sometimes, if you listened real close, you could hear laughter bouncing off the water, the same kind my brother and I once made. Half a lifetime ago, one Saturday, Tanner showed up with blueprints and a bottle of bourbon. "Thought we might sketch out that new dock," he said. So, we did, right there at the kitchen table. The two of us arguing about whether to angle it east or west. My daughter rolled her eyes. "Just build the thing, Dad." But I could tell she was proud. For once, the place felt lighter. Not fixed, not perfect, but healing. The new HOA, led by Lena, passed real reforms. They voted to make the board more transparent, returned a dozen unfair fines, and put the flag rule to bed for good. Karen's last-ditch lawsuits fizzled when her own lawyer realized she'd forged signatures and misused funds. She ended up moving 3 counties over, her name mud in every real estate office from here to Denver. Still, not everything could be patched up with signatures and apologies. I kept getting letters from the county, old zoning disputes, leftover paperwork from the battle, questions about land use. Some nights I'd stand on the porch, watching the stars come out, and wonder if it was all worth it. If holding onto a piece of family land justified all the mess, the sleepless nights, the burned bridges. But then my grandson would curl up next to me by the fire, ask me to tell him a story about Uncle Lance, or Dad, or that one time we caught a catfish bigger than he was, and I'd. No, legacy isn't about paperwork. It's about memory, sweat, stubbornness, and the promise you leave for the next kid who swings a hammer under your roof. Last week, Lena stopped by with a pie and a stack of board minutes for me to review. We sat on the porch, the sun setting slow and gold behind the trees, talking about everything and nothing. She said, "You know, Rick, you didn't just get your place back. You gave this whole community a spine." I shrugged. Never did like compliments, but inside, I felt it. The tide had turned. So, that's where I am now. The old lodge is alive again. The community's finding its footing, and I'm just grateful to watch it unfold. Maybe that's the real victory. Not some legal win, not even the epic takedown, but knowing you left things better than you found them, for your kids, your neighbors, and anyone who believes standing up to bullies is still worth the trouble. So what about you? Ever been pushed too far, stood up when everyone said, "Sit down," and found out what you're really made of? Tell me below. Where's your line in the sand? I'll be right here, coffee in hand, reading every story.